so I have to bring this down. All right. I'm Dan Geraldo. I work for Bank of America. I'm so glad you guys are with us tonight. I want to introduce Peyton Barsel. Peyton, she was brought to me a couple of weeks ago by our associates who saw her speak at an AFP event or luncheon, and they told me we need to have her speak at our event. So today, I'd like to introduce to you Peyton Barsel, which she'll explain to you her experiences and what she's doing now. So Peyton, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Geraldo, and thank you to Bank of America for inviting me here this evening to speak about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. My journey with philanthropy began as a result of a very personal set of circumstances. When I was 9, my father died suddenly, abruptly upending my life. I returned to school just days later, wanting to escape the horror at my house and hoping to feel safe and cared for. But when I returned to school, I was not greeted with hugs nor words of support. Instead, my friends and teachers avoided me, really not knowing how to help. I became withdrawn and depressed, and I saw the world as a scary place, constantly feeling vulnerable. I was sad and angry, but I felt intense pressure to act as if everything were normal and just move on. 2 years later, still struggling socially, I threw myself into volunteering at an organization called Adam's Place that offered grief support groups. I completed a year-long training to become the center's first child facilitator at age 12, and I have since volunteered over 400 hours there, teaching children who've lost a parent or sibling coping skills and how to identify and articulate their emotions through non-judgmental conversations in a safe space. Realizing how my school's unenlightened response to my situation had perpetuated my isolation and pain, I surveyed Adams Place participants about how their schools supported them when they returned from their loss. I learned my school experience was not unique. Children of trauma weren't healing from their unfortunate life circumstances and were, in fact, being re-traumatized at school by teachers' lack of compassion and understanding. I knew then that change needed to begin in the classrooms, and I had to do something to help. I called local schools about implementing a pilot training program for teachers, but no one would listen to the then 15-year-old me. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates 45% of children nationwide have at least one adverse childhood experience, or ACE, which includes child abuse and neglect, school and community violence, domestic violence, homelessness, bullying, traumatic loss, medical trauma, natural disaster, terrorism, and war. Trauma can seriously interrupt a child's school routine as well as their ability to learn. Decades of research have established that children affected by trauma are significantly more likely to deal with chronic disease in adulthood, as well as social and emotional problems. In fact, studies show that individuals who've experienced 4 or more ACEs are 10 times more likely to use illicit drugs and 12 times more likely to attempt suicide. Although the impact of ACEs can be significant and long-lasting, it can be reduced and even prevented by providing schools training and tools they need to establish safe, stable, and nurturing environments for children. The involvement of the school is therefore critical in supporting students through the emotional challenges they may face following a traumatic event. After learning about the positive impact trauma-informed schools have on children like me, I spent countless hours researching laws related to trauma-informed education, and I discovered only one state had passed a bill requiring this kind of training. I was determined for Nevada to be the second. I used that bill to draft my own, secured an assemblywoman to carry it, and met with dozens of legislators and lobbyists to determine their level of support, addressing their concerns. In April of 2019, at age 16, I presented in a 7-minute testimony my bill on trauma training for teachers to the Committee on Education and Civic. Unfortunately, that bill did not pass, but my my story and solution echoed in the hearts and the minds of the legislators who heard it. The opposition related to budgetary and time constraints for teachers, but legislators, lobbyists, and special interest groups all rallied behind my proposal and suggested I speak to the author of another education bill that included training for teachers and had passed. I did just that. I met with the school district and I outlined my goals and objective. The school administrators were now very supportive of my efforts because I've become so well known for my commitment, passion, and knowledge of trauma training. In fact, they gave me free rein to research and develop the program. I have co-written the training with Clark County School District and Vegas PBS, and I'm appearing in a training video based on best practices I researched for trauma-informed schools that every school employee in the state, custodian to principal, will see this January. The training educates school staff on the likely reactions to trauma, how to identify these children, and what steps to take to help support them. The video provides instruction on how to respond to negative behavior as an opportunity to teach self-awareness, use attentive listening when speaking with students, and seek solutions to remove barriers that these children face. I wanted my training to reach beyond just Nevada. So this past year, I founded a nonprofit called ACE Aware to raise funds for additional teacher training and awareness about the long-term effects of ACEs. Our website includes free training resources in both PDF and video format, describing the ways teachers typically approach students misbehaving as a result of their trauma and how to alter their approach, viewing it through trauma-informed lenses. ACE Aware's secondary initiative is to provide local resources to community-based services that support people affected by ACEs. I have worked with hundreds of children over the past 5 years, and I know firsthand how difficult sitting in a classroom while struggling with the aftermath of a traumatic event can be both academically and socially. We as a society may not be able to eliminate children being exposed to life-altering traumas, but we most certainly can teach our educators how to support them. I have never proposed that our already overburdened teachers now have the task of becoming counselors too, but these skills are basic and easily learned. I learned them at Adams Place when I was 12. It is my mission to make sure that no child who has already gone through too much in life also has to deal with isolation at school. Thank you very much for your time, and may you have a safe and happy holiday season. Wow.